A new U.S. policy alert seeks to block Communist Party members from getting immigration visas. A China analyst says it could devastate party officials seeking to flee China. And the U.S., the UK, and Japan are also tightening their visa review process for international students and foreign researchers in concerns of intellectual property theft. Another of China's chipmakers admitted that U.S. restrictions could have material adverse effects on its production. And in China's car industry, only less than 10% of chips are produced without technology from other countries. A 4-year-old child is banned from kindergarten because his grandmother refuses to give up Falun Gong, a spiritual practice that has been persecuted in China for 2 decades. And China is offering the same vaccine at a price 20 times higher for China than other countries. This is called vaccine diplomacy. Hundreds of Chinese students could be blocked from entering British universities. That's as Britain cracks down on which subjects foreign students can study in universities. According to London-based newspaper The Times, it's to counter the threat of intellectual property theft by Chinese students. According to a government website, postdoctorate students wanting to study in a field that could be used in weapons programs already need to go through a vetting process. According to The Times, the list will now be expanded to include subsubjects as cybersecurity and aircraft. A spokesperson said the move was to protect national security while still welcoming the academic richness that foreign students, including from China, bring. The measure is expected to block hundreds of Chinese students, and those already enrolled could have their visas revoked. Japan is also taking action. Starting next year, Japan will tighten its visa review process for international students and foreign researchers. An exclusive report by a Japanese newspaper says Japan's foreign ministry has set aside $2 million to improve screening. The report noted that the U.S. and Australia are vigilant at Beijing's tactics, like using students and researchers to steal technology. But it added that Japan isn't nearly as strict. Experts worry that Chinese students rejected by the U.S. may turn to Japan.
On Friday, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services published a policy alert about banning members of the Communist Party from getting an immigrant visa. In general, unless otherwise exempt, any intending immigrant who is a member or affiliate of the Communist Party or any other totalitarian party, domestic or foreign, is inadmissible to the United States. The policy alert is not new. It is based on laws passed by the U.S. Congress between World War I and the 1950s, but it suggests that the Trump administration may take tougher action to enforce them. The law provides exemptions for aliens whose membership or affiliation was involuntary, or for purposes of obtaining employment, food rations, or other essentials of living and where necessary for such purposes. The law provides another exemption where aliens must have terminated their membership at least 5 years before the date of the application and had actively opposed the doctrine and ideology. On Saturday, one day after the policy alert had been issued, the number of people searching in Google "quit party" in Mandarin Chinese surged by 100 times more than before the alert. Reportedly, the U.S. authorities may have already tightened restrictions. 2 weeks ago, U.S. Customs officials denied entry to a Chinese national at the Detroit Metropolitan Airport and sent him back to China. The man held a 10-year travel visa at the time and was not given a reason for his refusal. His travel visa was later canceled. The individual retained his CCP membership for fear of affecting his pension benefits. He was also earlier denied an immigration visa in the U.S. The man's lawyer in the U.S. believes that he was denied entry due to his status as a member of the CCP and advised him to quit the party before reapplying. As the largest communist party in the world, the 90 million members of the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, are expected to be affected. However, a book that details the repressive history of the CCP was published in Chinese in 2004. The 9 commentaries on the Communist Party launched a massive movement to quit the party and its affiliated organizations. According to data published by a New York-based nonprofit Global Tuidang Center, over 360 million Chinese have quit the CCP and its two related organizations, the Communist Youth League of China and Young Pioneers of China. Most used a nickname or pseudonym. The center issues a certificate to those who have quit the party as proof of their denunciation of the organization. According to the center, the certificates are widely accepted by the U.S. Immigration Agency.
Chinese Communist Party members received a fresh blow. A policy alert last Friday potentially blocks them from getting immigrant visas in the U.S. China analyst Tang Jingyuan said it could cut off the route for communist officials seeking to flee China to the U.S.
作为做官的这个党员本身呢，他留在国内。
These officials, who are also party members, stay inside China and continue to harvest economic and political benefits.
From China, these officials move their families and money abroad, so it's much easier for them to leave China later on. And the U.S. is one of their top destinations. Tang added, the motivation behind the move is because not many of them truly believe in communism or in the longevity of the CCP. So a large number of officials are seeking a way out.
你如果是党员，那么你就是不能。
And with the new policy, these CCP officials are left with no way out. As members of the CCP, they could be barred from getting green cards or citizenship, which means they can't enjoy the money they moved to the U.S. with.
On top of that, Tang said it signals further decoupling between the U.S. and the Chinese regime. He notes that it's a decoupling from the Chinese regime, not the Chinese people.
那么这个措施它其实出台。
The policy alert differentiates Chinese people from the ruling party. It's not banning Chinese people from immigrating to the U.S.
And exceptions can be granted if the applicant ended their party membership or affiliations 5 years before applying for the immigrant visa. Tang said it could lead to a trend of party officials quitting the Communist Party. Juliet Song, NTD News.
Now to a contaminated grain supply found in China. Chinese authorities recently revealed that more than 2,500 tons of rice supplies had been found to contain excessive cadmium. Cadmium is a heavy metal element. Consuming foods with high levels of it over a long period of time may damage the kidneys. The grain stockpile was worth an equivalent of $1 million. The rice supply was part of the country's state grain reserves. It was stored in southern China's Yu County in southern China. From 2017 to 2018, 4 rice merchants were charged with selling food that failed to meet safety standards and sentenced to up to 5 years in prison. The authorities discovered the cadmium-tainted rice during a random truck inspection in late 2018. Sales of polluted and tainted products are a common problem in China, and it raises a special threat to food safety. September and October make up the peak sales season for China's property market. But this year, terms like price cuts and discounts have become common. Now we turn to the housing market in Zhengzhou, the capital city of Henan province. According to Chinese media, a variety of promotional methods have emerged since September. Offers like down payment installations or package deals, including parking spaces or cars with every home purchase, among them. One of the city's popular real estate companies cut its prices by more than 10%, while another popular company cut its prices by 1/3. According to local industry insiders, real estate prices have fallen by about 10% from their 2017 highs. That's as prices for new houses in the suburbs have dropped up to 40%. According to data from Shanghai's E-House Research Institute, transactions related to Zhengzhou's new housing market fell more than 20% year-on-year in September. China's 2020 real estate enterprise sales trader list also shows more than 90% of China's real estate companies only achieved 40% of their sales targets during the first half of the year. Now in central China, where a 4-year-old boy has been banned from attending kindergarten for the past month. The boy lives in Macheng City inside Hubei province. He's being blocked from school all because his grandmother practices meditation discipline Falun Gong. The kindergarten refused to allow him to attend under pressure from Chinese authorities. Falun Gong is a spiritual practice that originated in China. At one time, it was reportedly practiced in China by 100 million people, before the Chinese Communist Party ordered an all-out persecution campaign against it in 1999. Those who practice follow the guiding principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance in their daily lives. According to U.S.-based Falun Gong information website Minghui.org, the boy's grandma, named Tao La Huai, still practices Falun Gong in China, despite the danger. She reportedly refused to give up her faith, despite police harassment and being detained multiple times over the last 2 decades. Tao is in her 70s. For years, she was a teacher at the same kindergarten that has since banned her grandson. She retired 15 years ago. The kindergarten principal told Tao's family that the boy couldn't be admitted unless Tao signs a statement promising to give up Falun Gong. The kindergarten had already made the demand several times before, which Tao refused. The principal even told the other teachers that if Tao refused to stop practicing Falun Gong, all teachers would have their bonuses canceled by order of Chinese authorities. The prices of 2 Chinese vaccines for the CCP virus have been released. Each of the vaccines requires 2 doses at a cost of nearly $90 if treated in China. However, the export price for the second vaccine is merely $4. Earlier this year, Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang said 600 million people in China, or about half of China's population, have a monthly income of around $150. A vaccine costing $90 is a significant amount of money for these people. The vaccines are inactivated. This means they contain particles of the virus that can no longer cause disease but still trigger the production of antibodies. According to Hong Kong-based Phoenix TV, the vaccine will be launched at the end of December, marking the first time China has exported a vaccine product. Last week, based on the agreement of a phase 3 clinical trial, the government of the state of Sao Paulo in Brazil signed a contract with China to purchase 46 million doses. The trial has also started in Indonesia and Turkey, and they may thus obtain vaccines at a low price. A spokesman for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced this September that China would give priority to providing vaccines to developing countries in the form of donations. Months earlier, Chinese leader Xi Jinping promised vaccines should first serve African countries. Just as many countries desperately needed face masks months ago, China practiced face mask diplomacy, prioritizing countries who didn't criticize its cover-up of the epidemic. Now, vaccines seem to have become another tool for the same purpose. China's largest chipmaker has announced it's subject to U.S. export restrictions. On Sunday, Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corp, or SMIC, said in a statement that the restrictions could have material adverse effects on its productions and operations. The statement confirmed media reports last week. On Monday, SMIC's share price in Hong Kong dropped 5%. This after it dropped 27% in September, when reports first emerged that the U.S. might target the company. The U.S. move will likely have far-reaching impacts. Semiconductors, or chips, are not only used in mobile phones, they're critical to various technology industries, including car makers. According to an article published by a Chinese science and technology website, less than 10% of chips used by China's car industry are produced without technology from other countries, and that the chips used in key parts of production are entirely imported. That includes in sensors and autonomous driving systems. The article quoted research data from 2019 saying the top 10 car semiconductor companies operating in China are all from the United States, Europe, and Japan. They make up a total market share of about 70%. a niche semiconductor company, represents the highest level of the sector in China under local businesses. But it achieved that level of success only after it acquired part of a European company. The article concluded that if certain areas are sanctioned, China may be completely unable to produce substitutes. German Chancellor Angela Merkel continues to take a tougher stance on China. She warned Europe will begin limiting China's access to the single market, comprised of the 27 EU member states, on Friday. The EU agreed formally to curb access to 5G tech from high-risk vendors. It's a move that brings the EU closer to the U.S. stance. The U.S. has long been warning allies against doing business with China's telecoms giant Huawei, citing national security risks. Merkel has previously said the trade with China is to be based on reciprocity. Merkel said on Friday the barriers to entry are still too high regarding China. She added further discussions are needed. Negotiators are currently stuck on market access. According to reports, they hope to reach a deal by the end of the year. The EU wants China to remove barriers for EU businesses. And EU leaders are set to discuss China at a special summit next month. That's according to media reports citing government documents. According to reports, the meeting will happen in Berlin on November 16th. While the meeting will cover China, the communist regime will not participate. This follows a EU summit in Brussels on foreign policy. The 27 bloc emphasized serious concerns with regards to China's human rights abuses in Hong Kong and with ethnic minorities. They also called for the need to rebalance the economic relationship and achieve reciprocity. The nations urged China to take responsibility when it comes to global challenges like the pandemic. They also anticipate a meeting with Chinese Communist Party head Xi Jinping in 2021.